And remember that this morning's top story is that puzzle over the existence of poisonous contraband here in the country. We've had different stories or narratives from different government and the Cabinet Secretaries. Of course, Fred Matiang'i saying that the impounded sugar is, of course, does not have the expected or the wanted standards. But on the other hand, the Industrialisation Ministry is coming out to say that there are no traces of mercury. We now want to bring in my colleague, Patrick Amimo, joining us from County Hall. Remember, like I mentioned earlier, we're expecting that the Parliamentary Committee on Agriculture will be meeting officials from Kebs. Patrick, good morning. So what time is this meeting slated to start, and who are we expecting to be part of this meeting from Kebs?
Thank you. We are awaiting the convening of that meeting that by the National Assembly's Trade, Commerce and Cooperative Committee that is chaired by a member of Kadini Kega, who says that it is on the way, and we expect members from the Kenya Bureau of Standards to appear before the committee to shed more light with regard to this contraband sugar, which is now said to be, which has now conflicting reports on whether it has mercury and copper or not. Because the Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i says that the test they did indicated that this sugar is laced with mercury and copper. But we saw yesterday Industrialisation CS Adan Mohammed say that the test they did shows that that sugar is safe for human consumption. And there is a conflict as the cabinet secretaries, two cabinet secretaries clash. Whatever you saw, Adan says that he is dealing with sugar that entered the country through official entry points. And that is what he says, that according to Kebs, they've indicated that that sugar is free of mercury and or copper or any impurities and is fit for human consumption. But we saw the Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, stand firm and said that as far as the police are concerned, that sugar that they've already impounded is laced with poisons and fit for human consumption. They said it has traces of mercury and copper. So he says that all those the people behind that sugar import will be charged in court, and the DCI will be ready to prove its case that the sugar is really contaminated. It's a matter that is causing anxiety across the country, and that is why now, before this committee, when the Kenya Bureau of Standards appears before it as an institution that is charged with ensuring there's quality of products that are brought into the country, then we'll be very expect the MD Charles Ongwae will be hard-pressed to tell Kenyans on the origin of this sugar and whether it was tested by the laboratories at Kebs. Remember, this particular matter is coming at a time when we saw 2 weeks ago there were media reports that at Kebs there's also a cartel that has been printing fake duty, fake stamps on import duty and all that. So if there is corruption cartels at the Kebs, then it means that the management will have a lot to clear with regard to this sugar and also its testing, the quality. The other institution that is also supposed to give a report on this particular sugar is the government chemist. Also far, we've not had any information from the government chemist on whether these consignment was taken to the laboratories and what was found out. But as it is, we've now come out. We saw yesterday, we saw the Parliament name one of the huge importers of sugar, and that is Jaswant Rai, whom the committee expects to come before it, to appear before it on Tuesday next week. Yesterday we saw there was a clash in Parliament on which committee should be able to probe this contraband sugar, and there was a conflict between the Agriculture Committee and the Trade Committee. But it was agreed that the Speaker of the National Assembly, Justice Muturi, ruled that the two committees should do a joint probe on this contraband sugar and give the report to Parliament within 10 days. So on Tuesday next week, already there's a lineup. On Monday we'll have the 4 CSS appearing before the joint committees to shed light on what they know about this contraband sugar, whether it's laced with mercury and or not, and who imported it, which routes did this sugar come through, who cleared it at the port, where was it stored, and why. Then after that, then we'll see those major players in this particular sugar importation come on board and tell us how much they imported and why. It is suspected, we saw the leader of majority in the National Assembly, Aden Duale, when he was flagging out Jaswant Rai, did say that this particular sugar, who owns West Kenya Sugar, he claims that he imported this sugar in the run-up to the 2017 election. production. It was a window when duty-free sugar was allowed to come to the country, and it is alleged Just and Dry imported 185,000 metric tons. So he will have a huge burden to prove before the Joint Committee next week when they appear on Tuesday to explain why he imported the sugar. But we saw yesterday West Kenya came up with media reports saying that they did import sugar in the country to offset the drought situation that faced the country that time. So that sugar they imported was to cater for the shortfall. But again, on the other hand, we've seen that there is a hue and cry by other local sugar millers who say that maybe these huge importations is meant to cripple the sugar industry, especially those that are government funded, like Mumias Sugar, Nzoia Sugar, Butali Sugar, and also the sugar like Chemelin and Sony. Remember, for Nzoia farmers, they've not been paid over 1 billion shillings for the supply of sugar that is now lasting. This is now the 8th month, and farmers in Nzoia are still yet to be paid for their sugar deliveries. It's a matter that is causing hunger and poverty in the homes in Western Kenya. They are crying. They want to see government act on these particular cartels that are importing sugar, which is also denying them food on their tables, and also ensuring that their children and families get a good health, they get good education, and also they better their situation. So it is a matter that Parliament is gripped of. The nation is also keenly looking at what is happening, and also we've seen members of Parliament also ask the President to come out and really deal with these sugar barons, because it is as it were. If matters are left to stand as it is, then maybe the country is headed in a wrong direction, where now we have that if it be proved that surely that this sugar is laced with poison, then I think the sugar barons are now getting into a very different territory, which is also dangerous to human life. Betty?
Patrick, just before I let you go, and we've seen these situations before where, there's a problem in the country and we have, leaders coming out speaking about this problem so strongly. Do you think this political will is genuine, that, at the end of the day we'll get to know, if indeed this sugar is illegal and it's not safe for human consumption, that we'll get really to the bottom of this? Talk to us about the political will that is actually, if indeed it's genuine, or it's just, the normal PR we normally see sometimes when it comes to such issues in the country.
Kenyans, we can allow them to be skeptical, because from the past events and the past regimes, we've seen they've been very, very weak when it comes to fighting corruption. There are major scandals have rocked all successive regimes since independence. We had the Kenren the Kenren saga during the Jomo Kenyatta administration, which brought in fertilizer. That scandal, it was never that local factory was never built, but Kenya is still paying for that factory. It was a major scandal in that Jomo Kenyatta regime. In the Moi administration, we saw Goldenberg. There was also massive importation of sugar during that period. No investigations came to nil. We've seen in the Kibaki regime, we've also seen Anglo leasing rear its head. Nothing came of it. We've seen in the first Uhuru administration, that is 2013 to 2015, there was NYS1. No action was taken, despite the list of 175 individuals being tabled. Kenyans are anxious to see. They want a big fish netted to serve at least jail time in committee. We've seen lessons from other countries that are taking action on corrupt individuals. But in Kenya, the concern is that they are chasing the small fish, yet the big fish are let off the hook. And we've seen now maybe there's the glimmer of hope in that there has been a restructuring of these. The DCI, we have a new person at the helm, that is George Kinoti, and he appears to be to want to do things differently. And if he can get good officers on board who can work together with him, then maybe for the first time we can see at least a big fish probably netted and served jail, either in committee or Langata women prison. We've also seen in the Director of Public Prosecution, there is a new Director of Public Prosecution, that's Nurin Haji, who was also promised that he will be on toes to ensure that if anybody is implicated in corruption, then they will be punished for it. And we've seen him say that people talk of big fish, but they forget that there are also whales and sharks. So we expect probably now Nurdin Haji to go a step further and not only get out these big fish, but also maybe nab a whale or a shark for us to serve jail term in committee. And maybe that will appease the Kenyans and maybe put a stop to this culture of corruption where people pilfer state resources and or loot and embezzle funds left, right and center. Betty.
All right, Patrick Amimo there reporting from the County Hall. Remember, he's updating us on that meeting that is set to take place between the Parliamentary Committee on Agriculture and officials from Kebs over the